What is going on today? We're going to be going over pre-markets for October week 1. Our quote of the day before we get started is, the more medicated, the more dedicated. Snoop Dogg. We're going to run over this kind of every time just to kind of mentally prep ourselves, but we're going to be looking for something that could provide the most bullish or bearish during market hours. We're going to categorize these based on a few criteria. And then again, the whole goal of this is to be prepared so we're using less brain power during our execution. Some of the criteria is we're only using day one tickers only for this study. We're going to be looking at stuff less than $10 that has consistent volume, a solid pre-market structure with some form of volume to it, and then over 10% gap. We're also going to look at pre-market structures, so fading into open, flat, or pushing into open, or no pre-market. So a few examples is this would be flat or pushing into open, this would be fading into open, and this would have no pre-market. We're also going to be looking at price range under $1, between 1 and 3, and over 3. So understanding the outcome, again, we're going to be looking at stuff of momentum versus faders. Momentum basically means it's providing a bullish setup. Faders are stuff that provides no bullish setup and offer little to no value for us as a trader. So this would be considered momentum, something that at least has a couple flags over VWAP, pushes, breaks pre-market high. Just a few examples. A fader for me, this provides zero opportunity. So we're going to start with the price range. We're going to start with the momentum stocks of the week. There was only 12 of them total that we saw. So under $1, there was only 5 out of 12, so 42%. 2 out of 12 from the $1 to $3 range, 16%. 5 out of 12 again for over $3 at 42%. 85% of the momentum stocks were either under $1 or over $3. Usually this range right here is a lot higher, at least in the past few weeks. This has been the one dominating, so it is interesting to see more from the under 1 and over 3. For the faders, we had 13 out of 23 were under $1. This makes the most sense, and we get this when we compare previous weeks. We'll see that that's a similar result almost every time. 7 out of 23 were from 1 to 3, 30%. 3 out of 23, 13% were over $3. So over half of the fading stocks were under $1. This is to be expected. Most of the stocks in this day and age, the penny stocks have faded as a category for a long time now, since probably 2020. So I think there was a point in 2021 where there was only like 2 stocks under $1. I mean, if we look at that number now, I'm sure it's in the hundreds. So just a lot more to pick from. So if we're categorizing based off of momentum and faders under $1, the chances of something that gaps up is a day one mover under $1 that will produce momentum would be 5 out of 13, so 38%. And 13 out of 18, 62. Well, I don't know why I have 18 there. This should be 18. I thought I changed that. That's MB. This should be 28%. And this should be 72%. Oops, RIP. There you go, it's changed on this one. Or the next one. From 1 to 3, 2 out of 9. Okay, that's correct. 2 out of 9, 22%. 7 out of 9, 78%. This has changed here. And then from over 3, 5 out of 8, 63%. And then 37% for the faders. So if we're gonna kind of recap what we just went over, 85% of momentum stocks, so in the momentum stock category only, opened either below $1 or over $3. So 1 to 3 range did not produce this week. 63% of all stocks that gapped opened over $3 had momentum. That's a pretty high percentage. And only 22% of all stocks between 1 to 3 produced momentum overall. Again, that's super low from what we've seen before. So yeah, comparing the weeks, we have similar for, this is September 4th, so this is 2 weeks ago. This is this current past week. We can see the numbers here, 24%, 4 out of 17. So Under $1, we had the same amount overall, 28%, 24, pretty similar. Here's where we see the biggest change. We had about 10 and then 9 and only 2 this week produced, where 5 2 weeks ago produced, and then 8, and then the numbers kind of flip-flopped here. So yeah, over $3. Sometimes this one over 3 is less predictable, just because every week we get less of them. But it is interesting to see that more momentum came from the $3 stocks. So we're going to switch over to price action now. So we're looking at momentum. 0 stocks that faded. 0 out of 12 momentum stocks faded into open. Again, this category is always low, but to see it at 0 is kind of shocking a little bit. 8 out of 12 were flat, 67%. 4 out of 12, 33% had no pre-market. So to me, this was a really tough week, and we're seeing a lot of different changes. 4 out of 12 is a lot more than we usually see. As far as having a plan before market open and then executing, it becomes a lot difficult with no pre-markets. It's just harder to kind of predict where things are going to go. So over half of the momentum stocks were flat or pushing into open. That's a normal thing. 7 out of 24 when we're looking at the faders were fading into open. 16 out of 23 were flat into open. This is, again, a huge... These numbers are usually flip-flop. And I think this is why this week was also very hard for myself and a lot of other people. A lot of fake pushes in pre-market that kind of led people to believe certain stocks would have momentum, when in reality they kind of faded. So, and again, no pre-markets data for faders. 70% of stocks were flat into open, which is pretty crazy. That's probably the most eye-opening piece of this week for pre-market stats. So looking at Momo and faders together into the fading into open category, 100% of the time, if it faded in pre-market, it produced no momentum. And this is where the big changes, where 8 out of 24, only 33% of flat into open produced momentum, while 67% faded. So 100% of the stocks that faded in pre-market produced no momentum. This is just kind of a typical stat. And then only 33% of stocks that were flat into open produced momentum. So this is a big change. So looking at 2 weeks ago versus last week, again, fading into open chances have been there for probably months, probably the whole year. These numbers have been very similar. Anything that's kind of fading to 0 in pre-market tends to not do anything. But here's the big change here. I'm not sure. We also had way less. I don't know why that's out of 7. That should be 14. I don't know what is going on with my numbers right now, but anyway, we had way more stocks that were pushing or showed momentum going into market open, and where 67% faded. So here is kind of the list of bullish to bearish. We have stocks over 3 that are pushing into open had the best chances. Stocks under 1 pushing to open had the second best chances. And then stocks from 1 to 3 that were fading in open had the worst chances. So these are just, we're going to run through these real quick. These are just the pool that I pulled from. A couple of them are going to be a little volume, so the structure is kind of off, but I put them here for a reason. So this one would be flat, even though it's kind of more of a multi-day one. See, we're having a lot of these where, to me, this is, I don't classify this as momentum, a good old volcano pattern, but another one where it's still pushing into open. We're pushing. We've seen a lot of this, especially later in the week. This one's fading into open, flat. This one's flat. To me, this one is still pushing into open because we are here and it opened here. So ICCT, Tovex pushing into open. This one was fading, pushing. No volume really, fading. All right, we're gonna look at momentum. There's a nice push here. This one's pushing into open, pushing. No pre-market. Pushing into open. This one was kind of a weird one. To me, we're still kind of pushing into open. Pushing. Pushing into open. This is the multi-day runners. We're actually going to do a separate video on this because a lot of momentum came from recycled names. I'm just gonna go over and do like a first pass and just, it's beautiful right there. XXG with a nice U pattern. Duo got kind of crazy this week. Kicks in like almost every day did something. Yonanar, no volume there. Bunch of no volumes. Endo did a nice push. Kicks in again. MLG was kind of a pain in the ass. Wheeler didn't really do much. EVGO also had nice V pushes. This was a nice little flag on ADTX. Nothing there. Kicks in there. Yoner. Okay, that's it.